Okay, I don't know what's going on. I just tried to record this twice. The first time my computer just shut down in the middle of it. That hasn't happened in a while. And the second time I forgot to click record on my audio, which I could have swore I did, but my computer was like updating as it was happening. So I don't know if things like kind of just froze for a second. I hit the button, but it didn't actually click. But I wasn't paying attention, so I easily could have just missed it. But because of that, I'm going to try to do this way faster. The first time I spent like a half hour on this one game, but I'm going to try to do it more quickly this time. Yes, it is I, Matthew Brolick, back during the week for my fellow UDL brethren. I have a really, really hype game to show you guys. I figured these are the last couple of weeks, so everybody who doesn't make the playoffs won't have a chance to be featured on the highlights. And obviously both TJ and myself are playoff contenders, but I'm just saying in general, if there are more good games than not in these last couple of weeks, I want to try to feature them all because it's the last couple of weeks to do so. And by doing this one now, I could still upload just as many as I normally do on Sunday, for example. And I really had a lot of fun in this game. As you can see, I'm one of the participants, so I felt like talking about it, and that is what I'm going to do. So just a little bit of context before we get into it. Like I said, I'm going to try to make this one faster than I've been doing it before. TJ, shout out to TJ, last season came in as a sub, but had to use a team that he wasn't particularly fond of and wasn't doing too well. I think might have only gotten one win or so, maybe 2 wins. But now this season, he started out hot at 3-0, but has been faltering a little bit here and there, and has gotten himself into a 4-3 position, which in the Y Conference is not that great when it comes to making playoffs, because there's probably going to be a ton of teams with 5 wins at the end of this regular season. So 5 wins does not guarantee you a playoff spot. So he has to try to win out his last 2 weeks, getting himself to 6 wins, giving him a really good chance at playoffs. So probably guaranteed chance at playoffs. So yeah, shout outs to TJ, like I said, for performing really well so far this season. But like I said, this is really important to him, because if he wins this game, then next week he's playing Zamcro, which he actually hasn't gotten a win yet this season. So not saying that TJ is definitely going to win that, but obviously he'll be in a pretty good position to. And even with a win this week, he'll have a chance at playoffs. So that would be just huge for him. But it's pretty big for me too, because I'm not even guaranteed to get a bye if I win this game. So if I win my next 2 games, I'm guaranteed. But if I win this game, I'm not guaranteed. But if I do win this game, I have a really solid chance at getting a bye. So it's pretty big for me. I'm not sure if I'm guaranteed at making playoffs or not right now, based on the schedule or schedules of different coaches that are in contention. So that's why this is pretty important for me. But because TJ is a potential playoff opponent, and I don't like my matchup in this game, I felt I didn't want to just like go as hard as I could in case I do end up having to face him in playoffs. But at the same time, hard enough that I feel like I have a winning team and that I could win this game. And I ultimately ended up liking my prep more than I thought I was going to. And I feel like this could be my best team against him. Who knows? But I just have no switch-ins to things like Q and Black with Z moves. He's got Ash Greninja, which normally Ash Greninja, if it doesn't have, like, for example, regular Greninja doesn't have a good matchup against the team, then it can be really hard for it to get its evolution off. But it has an amazing matchup against me, just ridiculously good matchup against me. So that is not the case. I have an Assault Vest Rotom here, but one that is only bulky enough to check a regular Specs Greninja, not even a evolved one, which is just insane. He's got a Mew, which is just one of the best Pokemon in the format, and a Pokemon TJ is very good with. Mega Diancie, which has a pretty great matchup against me as well. And then just other really solid mons like Toxapex, Magnezone. But I do, like I said, like my prep, so we will see what I'm able to do with it. As I'm going to lead with my Big Mouth Weiler, as he leads with his ooh, which I think he might have missed an opportunity at naming it Mew, but I'm not going to complain. He's paying homage to the greatest, so hey, I appreciate the nicknames. I really enjoyed them. But I got my Big Mouth Weiler, which has a pretty good lead matchup against most of his team, including this Mew, as I'm expecting him to go for a Will-O-Wisp right here. And even if he doesn't, I'll probably be able to get up my Stealth Rocks, which are just really good against his team. So I get up my Rocks as he goes for the Wisp, and now I could just click Facade, as I think Magnezone is most likely play, but even if he stays in with Mew or Toxapex, it's going to still be a pretty good play for me. As here he goes for the Thunderbolt. That reveals that he's probably like Modest Zap Plate. I wasn't in range of a Modest Specs Thunderbolt there before burn, but let's say I facaded him and he got a high roll, then after burn I would have gone down, but I still would have had most likely lived the Modest Specs Thunderbolt there. But that reveals to me that he's probably something like Zap Plate or something. As I go for Facade, get a solid 40 on him each time, as here he actually over predicts and goes for the barrier. Turns out I don't even have Sucker Punch on this set, and that works well for me as I'm able to just knock him out there. As sorry, you're hearing that noise coming out of my other laptop. Let me just mute it. So, all right, now I preserve my Mawile because I really just can't let this Greninja get the Mega Evolution off, or Mega Evolution, Battle Bond Evolution off, because it just 2 KOs my Rotom cold, just clean, does over 50% with a +1 Specs Dark Pulse, especially if he's modest, which he most likely will be against my team. So, as you're going to see, that does 41. I'm Assault Vest on my young Tomer here, but now I'm going to go for the Volt Switch as he goes into his Mew, and now I'm going to bring in my Hot Body Roner. I'm sure Aki's going to love that nickname, as if he does reveal to be a rock move here, it does reveal some nice information that could help some of my other team members take advantage of this Mew. But the fact that he revealed leftovers there too would mean that he'd be taking a pretty big risk unless he was max speed on this Mew by staying in on a potential Bug Buzz. So I'm going to go right for the Quiver Dance as he brings in his Toxapex, all of his Pokemon named after me. Really, really love it. As now I'm going to click the HP Ground, as it does a pretty good chunk to this Toxapex, but that HP Ground tells me that there's a good chance he's max Spadef. But I'm going to go for another Quiver Dance here, because if he does overpredict, then I benefit from that. And now if I HP Ground again, then there's a decent chance that he's in range. Let's say he's not actually max Spadef and I got a low roll there, then there's a good chance he'll be in range even after hazing me of another HP Ground. But because that 53% is still in range of him being max Spadef, this next HP Ground doesn't really have a great chance to knock him out. So I'm not going to take any more risks. I'm going to go right into my Long Body Garter here as he goes right for the Liquidation, and that doesn't do much. If he did Hard Scald Burn me there, that would really suck, but because my matchup isn't very good, like I said, I need to play this a little more aggressively. So I'm going to just fire off a Life Orb 1000 Arrows as he goes hard into his Mew, and that damage reveals that he is very physically defensive, which is not very good for me, because if he was a little less physically defensive, and let's say that was like a max roll, then maybe he'd have a shot at being in range of like an extreme speed here, but he is like not. I'm pretty sure there's almost no chance, or no, I think 24 point like something is the max roll, but it's unlikely, so I'm just not going to take that risk here. So I am going to switch into my Hot Body Roner once again, as he's either going to Roost here or fire off an Ice Beam. If he did Ice Beam and I stayed in, if he outsped me, which I'm not running a ton of speed on my Zygarde, that's the reason I didn't have 1000 Arrows again. If he outsped me, he could have knocked me out with Ice Beam, and if he didn't, I would have gone down to Life Orb Recoil, losing one of my best Pokemon against him, if not my best Pokemon against him. So I felt I couldn't afford to lose my Zygarde there. So here I bring in my Hot Body Roner once again, because I felt he was likely at either Ice Beam, Will-O-Wisp, or Roost. So here he brings in his Diancie as I go right for the HP Ground. I'm not sure if I was able to go for a Quiver Dance here, if it would have knocked out a Mega Diancie as he evolved, because it loses so much Spadef, but I'm guessing that wasn't the case, and that's why he brought it in, as his Toxapex was actually in range of a 2 KO from 2 HP Grounds if he did decide to bring it in on me. So probably the better play on his part to go hard Diancie. As here I'm going to go to my Thick Body Swiner, as he does get a Diamond Storm boost, which means I can knock him out with an Earthquake here, but not if he goes for another one and gets the +2 again, but he does just go for his Stealth Rocks here. So good play on his part, as now that really does wear down my Volcarona, which has been putting a lot of pressure on him, as now he brings in his Kyurem Black, and I'm going to sack my Mawile off. I'm not the most afraid of Sub, because I do have the Bug Buzz on my Volcarona, and I am Swarm. As you're going to see, I bring it in, and I'm at 11%, so I'm well under a third of my HP, meaning that if he's offensive, he's in guaranteed range of Swarm Bug Buzz, and if he does reveal to be Scarf here with Iron Head, I can bring in my Mesprit to set up on this Kyurem Black and be in a pretty cool spot, or even my Zygarde. So the Swarm Bug Buzz just clean knocks him out there, which was nice, as now I'm able to go into my Thick Body Swiner, because I calced, and a Ashgren, let's say I let it Pillow Swine or let Volcarona die there. And Ash Gren could have knocked me out with a modest Specs Dark Pulse there, and I would have been in a horrible spot. And you could have even just switched out and preserved the Gren and still basically just clean up the rest of my team by getting just a little more chip with rocks on things like Rotom and Piloswine and Zygarde. So I couldn't afford to let him get the evolution off there. So I had to take a lot of damage on my Thick Body Swiner and then go into my Volcarona to prevent the Battle Bond transformation, as now he is going to be going into his... I'm going to be able to go into my Rotom Wash, and I'm figuring he's not going to want to take the risk in Dark Pulse here, because if he goes for that 20% chance and I knock him out, then all of a sudden I have a really good chance to win. At least in my eyes. So he's going to go into his Toxapex, which was his most likely sack, as I'm going to go for the Discharge here, and I'm going to Discharge one more time, as now I know it's probably going to force in his Mew, because his Greninja probably doesn't have a move to hit me any harder. Like, HP Grass is the same power as Dark Pulse, so either he goes for the flinch or he doesn't. Or he goes Mew. So here, I'm expecting him to want to stay in, because if he roosts up on me, then in his eyes, it looks like he could probably wall the rest of my team, because this Mew is designed to beat Zygarde. He probably knows that I'm AV Rotom, and if I'm not, he knows he could probably beat it with Roost. So, unless I have Toxic, of course. But if he knows that I'm AV, which I think he does know based on the modest Specs Gren damage. So I am going to... I deliberated on this for a while, and if let's say he chips me at all with like Will-O-Wisp or Ice Beam, then I will definitely be in range of a modest Specs Greninja Dark Pulse on this next turn when he brings it in, and then he pretty much just cleans up my team. The only chance I have to win is critting the Greninja with E-Speed. So I don't want to bank on a crit. I decide that him either staying in and roosting so the Mew could wall the rest of my team, or him getting any chip on me as I knock it out, putting my Rotom in range of his Greninja's Dark Pulse, is his best course of action. So I'm going to hard into my Mesprit, because if I get my Mesprit in and potentially get up a sub on this Mew, then that puts me in a really good spot to win this game. If he does hard into Greninja and this was all a bait, then he does just win the game on the spot pretty much. But I don't really have much of a choice, because if he stays in with his Mew here, as I go for something like Discharge, then I most likely lose. So here I go hard into my Mesprit, and he goes for the Roost. So I'm like, okay, I could breathe a sigh of relief. I'll go for a substitute here, because even if he does Wisp me, it kind of depends on what his last move is, because unless he has something like Knockoff, if he's another special move, or even something like U-Turn, I'm in a pretty good spot, because I can, get that sub up, and once I get a Calm Mind, then I can knock out the Greninja with a +1 Signal Beam, and then just 1v1 the Mew. Depending on his last move, there's a good chance he won't be able to break my subs, because just Ice Beam as his only attacking move cannot break my sub, especially if I get a Calm Mind up. Then like 2 Ice Beams can't break my sub, so I'd be looking like in a prime position to win, because just like +3 Signal Beam is too much for his Mew to recover off. So here I am going to go right for the substitute as he reveals the Toxic, and that is literally worst case scenario, because now I'm on a timer, and now my Mesprit cannot beat this Mew, as I'm just kind of forced to go for a couple of Calm Minds here and hope that maybe I can like work some magic. Let's say I like confuse the Mew or something like that as I go for this Signal Beam, and then try to play around the Mew in that way. Then maybe I'll have a shot. But nope, there's no confusion. So now I'm just actually going to save my Mesprit, because I only have one route to victory here, and it starts with yellow and it ends with magic, and I am going to just fire off Discharges here with my Rotom, saving my Mesprit just in case I need it as a sack for something, as he does just go for the Toxic, knowing I'll have at least 3 turns to go for Discharge, meaning I should probably get the Para, because it's about a 1 in 3 chance. So here on this second one here, I click Discharge again, and I do get the Paralysis, so now I do have a shot at winning this game, because my Piloswine will probably outspeed this Mew. And my last move of my Piloswine, other than Dual Stab, is Light Screen. So I'll be able to get up a Light Screen and then potentially set up on this Mew, because if I get 1 power on this Mew with my Zygarde, then I win the game unless he crits me with Ice Beam through the Light Screen. So here he goes for the Ice Beam, and I can bring in my Zygarde and go right for the Dragon Dance, as with a DD up, this Mew is in guaranteed 2 KO range. And after this Ice Beam behind the screen, as you can see, there's 43%, I can attack this Mew twice and still have 5% left to E-Speed the Greninja, which he's in 100% guaranteed range of. So if I get 1 para on this Mew, then I win the game. So it all comes down to this: 1 out of 2 paras. I just need 1 out of 2 paras in this scenario. Can I get this para to win? I'm going to go for the 1,000 arrows. As you're going to see, it does a nice chunk. Obviously, a crit would have knocked him out too, but he gets the Ice Beam off, and he is able to clean up the game as my Piloswine is at 4, meaning that I'll just die to the Stealth Rocks as TJ picks up the huge victory against me. I really thought I had this game. That Toxic on his Mew was worst case scenario. He said he changed the set, which he hadn't changed it. I think I would have been in a pretty good spot to potentially win the game. Not guaranteed, but I think I would have been in a good spot to win. So that Toxic on his Mew really, really paid off, as my Mesprit was just looking primed to win otherwise, as had I gotten the sub off, even if he burned me, I would have been in a fantastic spot. But that Toxic put me on a timer, and then my only route, like you guys saw, was the Yellow Magic, and I pretty much played it perfectly to put me in a position to potentially have a chance to win. And I just needed 1 out of the 2 paras, or 1 para on those 2 turns where I set up and started attacking. Had I just attacked on the spot, not only would it have been a roll to knock him out, but also E-Speed wouldn't have knocked out Greninja. So if I did have Ice Shard on Piloswine, then I would have been able to knock him out. I think the Greninja after E-Speed, I do think I would have needed a bit of a high roll, but I'm not 100% sure. So sorry, my dog is being really cute and distracting me. Yeah, I really enjoyed that game. If you guys know me, or you've just been following my channel for a while, obviously I don't upload anymore, but you know that when I lose matches, I tend to get frustrated because I feel like oftentimes I beat myself. Like, I'll have the winning prep and game plan, and I just get into the game and I get too cocky or comfortable with my prep and just not execute my game plan the way I had envisioned it, and I end up losing. So I get really frustrated because even though my opponent might have prepped and played well and everything, I just felt like I already prepared for a lot of what they did, and I still made all the wrong plays otherwise. So I just came into the game and decided, you know what, like, I'm not going to take too many risks. I get a little greedy or something like that, and I feel that often happens with my losses. And I just feel like I had the winning prep, I had the winning game plan, and I beat myself. That happened earlier in this season against Rob Jr., where I lost 0-4, and even if he won the game, he had no business winning 4-0 against me. There was one play in particular, and there were multiple plays throughout that game, but there was one play in particular that I literally had no reason not to make. It was 100% the best play in every single way possible. It wasn't just because of the outcome, and in hindsight, I just didn't consider it to be the best play. At the moment, I did consider the play, but I didn't think it through enough because I just was not thinking clearly at the moment. And that severely would have lowered the differential and given me a chance to win. So instead of losing 0-4, I could have either lost 0-1 or 2 or won the game. So that would have been a huge difference regardless. So those things really frustrate me. But this was one of those games where I feel like it's really happened in the format, especially ever since I've improved and gotten somewhere near the level that I think that I am currently at. I feel like when I go into these games, I feel like it doesn't really happen where I go into these games, I play my best and just still lose despite that. I feel like usually I shoot myself in the foot somewhere along the lines, or obviously hacks does play a factor in some of them. So to come out here, be in control pretty much the whole game, play really well, and basically play it perfectly at that end game to give myself a chance to win and still lose, it was just refreshing and it was fun. I just put myself out there, tried my hardest, and I came up just short. So it shows me that I still have room to grow and get better, even when I'm almost at my best. I know I didn't prep as hard as I do for most weeks because I like I said, TJ could be a potential playoff opponent, but I still put in the work. And there goes my dog. And I wasn't able to come out on top. So with my dog barking, I'll end it here. Hope you all enjoyed the video. Shout out to TJ. Huge win for him. Now he's at a great spot to make the playoffs. And yeah, congratulations. So hope you all have yourselves a fantastic day and week. And I'll see you all in the next one later.